Hey guys, I have Randomizer48 here, and today I'm going to just do a quick, relatively quick I should say, talk through of an all lasers run of the Witness Randomizer. So let me just, I've just randomized the seed. I've never seen this seed before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play through this seed, and we're just going to talk about what I'm looking for, what I'm seeing, and how you can potentially use what I do to improve your own. First, don't do that. But anyway, the tutorial area is pretty straightforward. So I'm going to take this opportunity to, just give some general approaches. So when I first look at this panel, I always pick a side, just usually right, and just start drawing a path. But as I'm doing that, I'm also trying to see where the cutoffs are. So if you can notice this line, that's really fast. I'm not going to focus too much on strategies for the tutorial because it is mostly just trying to see where the lines cut off, where the lines don't cut off, and instead just talk a bit about what's so great about this randomizer because I really do like it. Basically, it's just new random puzzles every time, and it's just a lot of fun for me to go in. I know essentially I know what type of puzzle I'm going to get at each place, but I don't know what's on it. Uh, this panel was an example where I went on a big false lead. I generally try to move towards the exit on these, but then I see that there's nowhere else to go. I know I'd get cut off, so I had to backtrack and go down, and the rest of the path was pretty straightforward. Anyway, I'm going to be doing the all lasers route, and just focusing a little bit on strategy. So the first laser that gets done in the route is Symmetry, or the Symmetry Aisle. And to access the aisle part, you have to do the glass factory. And the glass factory is a bit of an extension of the tutorial area, just with two mazes instead of one. So what I generally do is I generally do these by feel a bit, and almost always the longest possible path that isn't blocked is the correct one. So in all of these, I'm looking and I'm trying to determine what the longest possible path is. But I'm also taking a look to the other side. And then this one, I always just pick a side, again, usually the right side, and just start drawing. In this case, I think I'm pretty sure it's the right side, yeah. If you ever reach the opposite side, you know it's the correct location to have started at. So now we deal with rotational symmetry, which again, ooh, this one's actually a devious one. It's usually the longest path, but as you can see, it's not always the longest path. But yeah, trying to just take a long path with keeping an eye on the other line, one other than the one you're drawing, is generally sufficient. This is probably one of my weakest areas, honestly. So right there I noticed that I couldn't go through the center. Can't go that way, so we're gonna try and take this other middle path. Alright, and that is the glass factory. So, yeah, all of those are pretty much just picking long paths and just trying to draw through, and if it gets blocked, adjust, pick a different path. You kind of get better at it with practice, like most of these sections. So dots, I kind of take a greedy approach with dots, especially symmetry dots. I think these 5 are the hardest. So right here, this is a line that can never be passed through. So the first move has to be that in order to get the missing dot. And then I just continue for this one on forced dots, and essentially, if you can do an easy repeating path, or any way to, so right here, yeah, any easy repeating path or any way to easily tweak a line. So right here, I wanted to be greedy and take this line, or take that dot. But this cuts off the one over here. So I just extend, cut back, and it's good. So again, bit of a greedy approach. I see it's not going to work, so I backtrack. The first line was actually forced. So at this point, I know I have to transpose essentially which side is doing what, and then it just works. So I do try to keep essentially this, even on the rotational ones, I try to keep the side the same, but sometimes you'll have to transpose and switch sides. Not always, but I guess as soon as I say that, I come across one where I naturally want to try to transpose. Yeah. Anyway, black dots is pretty tough. I think the colored dots definitely make this a lot easier. So with the sparsity of the dots here, you can almost always just be greedy in the approach. Just essentially just take something, take something, and just keep adding to what you take. Note this dot right here above the tree. It's a little hard to see, but it is there. These multiple starting points, this is actually a really illustrative puzzle. Cannot go right without losing the black dot at the top. Cannot go left without losing the blue dot, so it has to start here. Now, next up is fading lines, and fading lines is 7 puzzles of the exact same, except you have to be able to mentally see where you've put the other line. This doesn't actually change things very much. Now, there's one important thing to remember here, and that's coming up on the next panel, I believe. Yes, it is the next panel. Wait, where's the finish? Oops. So, note the ending points are both at the top. This one is mirror symmetry. So, generally, I find this one a lot easier. This one then tries to catch you out by being rotational. So, my immediate thought process here is, okay, I'm going to grab these 3 because I can grab them all in a cluster, and then I just need to get to a finish. And then this one, again, you can just kind of be greedy about. Being greedy and just immediately trying to grab lines is all it really takes. So I'm going to solve the entirety of orange dots first. Or no. So this one I'm going to remember it's an L tromino, and then kind of an O and an S. So it's an L like this, and we have that O, then we have that S, and there's the line. Now we do it again. This one, I believe, is always a vertical flip. It is, in fact, just a vertical flip. So we're going to go all the way, and we're going to remove 2 and 1 on the far side. And then for the last one, I do try to make sure that the path I come up with here is easy to remember. That's not always possible, unfortunately. This one's kind of a pain. So I'm going to remember this as start the farthest, go the long way, and then kind of 2 L's. So start the one the farthest, go the long way, with an immediate 2. And because I'm remembering that other L and that single, it's going to be this. One thing you can do, and that I've started doing in runs, is having the witnesses screenshots folder open, and just take a screenshot of each of the orange ones, and then you can just rotate and flip as you go on the blue ones. You essentially get to copy the solutions instead of having to memorize them. Memorizing them is still useful, especially for keep. So, desert. As I approach, I take a quick sidestep here to memorize this panel, and I'm going to actually turn on my little aid here. So this is my cheat sheet of all solutions that will show up in desert. So this one is 7 on that list, but now I think of it more as a down right. This one's a 4. I look up and it's just the curve. I see this one. Now, taken to just coming over here, taking a peek. This one's a center start, which means I immediately know it's this. And I come over here. It's just another center start, of which there are only 3. Now, the really important thing to note about center starts is that if the panel has only a center start, it will start in the center. And if it doesn't, it won't. So I have no idea what this last panel is. So we come up here and just, wait. I usually try to line up with a spot. Bottom left is usually a safe one. And then you just put in the solution. If you're not comfortable solving that from a distance, it's perfectly reasonable to walk down. Lightroom, I like coming over here, switching the right light. I see the squares pattern, which is always that. And then I walk behind this panel. I see this a little curve here. So I've seen this pattern, so we put in the N, and then I put in what I call fake center, as I know those are the 3 that have that pattern. You can always do that via a bit of a lookup. Or once you do it enough, you just kind of end up memorizing the patterns and can kind of do this automatically. So next really big thing is, let's move over a bit, is flood room. Now, flood room can either be done with memorizing as you go, or as I'm going to do, a little bit of guessing. So I just essentially go through the patterns that I haven't seen, which I also had not seen this pattern or this pattern. Or the N. And as you do this more, you get better at remembering the patterns that have not yet appeared, so you can guess through them. Worst case, you can always do flood room normally, or just input every single pattern in a row. So last panel here. Now, you can do this set of 3 and get the first latch. You can also just activate this to get the to be able to tilt this panel, but I'm going to do neither of those. Double latch skip is very hard, so I'm just going to do this little trick, where you can see on the very top of the panel whether it starts there, whether it ends there, and what angle it has there. So in this case, I know that it's going to go along both of these paths, and the only pattern left that does this, to my knowledge, is that one. So this is where keeping track of your patterns really helps. So keeping track of what patterns you've seen is, in my mind, the most important thing to do in Desert. I've gotten a lot better at it since I just did actually some focused Desert practice, where I just did Desert over and over. And I mean, just the act of doing Desert over and over and trying to keep straight what I had and had not seen on a given attempt has just helped me immensely. So, Desert, and that's 2 lasers down. Moving on to a quick separation panel. So I usually try to pin one color, and on this one I feel like I got baited a little bit no, this would have worked. So I aborted because I saw the one in the corner. I'm like, okay, I should trap that first. So both of those work. It's just a matter of what you see and what you try. So first thing I do with the shape panel is put the shapes in their initial locations. This gets in the way, so I swap them, and it just works. Also, I no longer need this up. Alright, so again, a separation panel. I pick a side, I go around. Dots panel. This one's a pretty easy one, so... Alright, then I look at this corner, and I do Boathouse snipe. So what that effectively does is that will make it so I don't have to move the ramp there or wait on the ramp. So it's kind of instantly put in two solutions, but these both show the kinds of approaches I do here. Just pick one to eliminate, or in these early ones, just try to section off all but one, so this one's really free to do that. And then these, I try to come up with a line that grabs all, and then leave one out. So in this case, line that grabs all, leave that one out. It doesn't quite work as well here, but I can adjust the line, deliberately kind of skipping that one. Again, skip that one. Now this third one, yeah, there's a bit too much going on there for me to solve it from down here comfortably. So separation. Yeah, once I'm up here, it's pretty easy. So these checkerboards are very important. At least one of these has to be negated, at least one of these. So it's one of these two. And then you can also effectively then state that this must be red, these two must be green, and therefore this one must be effectively green. So it would have to be that one on the top. So I'm just going to try and breeze through these as best I can. Again, using the same principles of just separate and leave alone. This one's almost always doable by pinning 3 in the corners. This one I have to go the other way to trap that red in the corner. And then yeah, none of the separation ones were too bad there. And this is more of the same, just kind of arbitrarily just try to solve the panel, and once you solve it, just make sure that the negator is with the one mistake. Alright, so that is the mill. The mill is the easier of these two locations for sure. And so it's off to the boathouse. Now the boathouse uses stars and shapes, and it uses them together, and that's a combination that can be pretty tough. So I'm going to start with the shape panel actually. So all of these, again, the first thing I will try is putting them in their initial places. O here, T here. So I see that that works well with the given breaks, and the puzzle just solves itself. Now on the star panel, I want to put these together. I want to put these together, and then that leaves figuring out how to resolve this top part. And that won't work. The reason why this won't work is it puts too much on the perimeter. So my next idea is just trap the 2 in the corner, and this works. This panel can be very difficult, so kind of hard to determine what to do with it. So while I'm here, because I don't have to wait on anything later, whoops, let's just summon the boat. So these panels are kind of just, you know, pick 2 shapes that can cover that can cover themselves, and preferably cover everything. This is an example where they can't cover everything. However, you'll notice that these 3 can leave these 2 alone. And then on this panel, this is actually a weird example, because 99% of the time, I would say, the correct solution will use these 2 that are disjoint together. But this is not one of those times. So, going through my head here, oh, I can summon the boat from here. Okay, anyway, going through them, these 2 obviously don't go together. They're just too far apart. Then if this T touches this, there's only one way they can fit together, slotting the T into this spot, which would then necessarily include this and cut off the negation symbol. So once you know that these 2 must be what goes together, or what go together, the disjoint shapes can only go either here, here, or here, here, and only one of those actually lets you cover the shapes. The rest of these are just kind of just cycling through, generally the larger shapes first, but if things fit together without issue, then that obviously is a big help. Still gonna move around. So stars. Always cut off 2 purples. Always cut off 2 purples. Though here you can sometimes cut off 2 greens, or with the purples. Here you can't. Make a match. I want to go the other way so that I can trap the rest. Essentially, the big trick to these is there is no trick. You just solve them like normal star panels. This is kind of a weird anti-star. Yeah, just solve them like normal star panels, except with an extra addition. Honestly, I wish I had better advice for dealing with star panels, but as you can kind of see, I don't even have the best approaches sometimes. So generally I try to do this by intuition with just trapping groups of stars like over here, or seeing that I can do 4 and 4. But this one's a little tough. Never mind. Almost always you'll have an 8 symbol group on this panel. So first one, you put the shapes together, probably with 2 stars. Second one, you put in one of the shapes and just finish it. So for this particular puzzle, my eye is drawn to the fact that I somehow need to include everything. Or like build these shapes. The important thing is that if I put the L in the top left where it actually is, it just won't work. And I can see that because it will cut this off. So, transpose. Move the T over, and then put the L in its place. And then, you'll notice that with the L, I actually have to go this way. So this puzzle did bait me on the starting direction a little bit. Not too bad. Now this one's much simpler. The pieces just slot together. And then for this last one, it's just a matter of canceling out one of the shapes. So that is Boathouse. And we're not going to get the quarry laser yet. Instead, it's just boating off to Treehouse. I'm going to try and get the quick stop here. So just while we're boating, a quick summary on quarry strategies. With the single negator, it is almost always worth trying to solve the panel normally and then introduce an error rather than, put in an error and then try to solve the rest. Just because you have more degrees of freedom with what can be done. A few of the panels, like the early star ones, definitely want to bend more towards just building in the error. And I'd also say that the first shape set is even about finding the shape that doesn't belong. That's pretty good. I always try and get this, I never do though. So Treehouse, again, we're going to have a bunch of stars. I'm going to mostly just go through first bridge here. The first 2 bridges, just because these bridges are more automatic than anything else. It's just a matter of sectioning off stars in such a way that, the panel's solved. Some common strategies with just trapping groups of 2. In particular, this one I need to go down. Trap that 2, trap that 2. Again, I can just stick 2 in the corner. You can almost always deal with these 8 star panels by going back and forth. And again, you can see this kind of corner trapping just immediately solves what could sometimes be some tricky panels like door 3. So now we've got 2 colors. This is kind of a weird one where I have to have 3 regions. I think it's actually forced to have 3. So the same principles apply, just with a little more guiding. Angle it left, again. The back and forth strategy outlined still works. So this is another kind of weird example of a pattern that can come up where you go to the side, trap this group, and then you just can trap that group. So again, we can do that here. Now, solve to the left. Actually, this one's really funny. 'Cause it's actually... Oh, wait, no, it's not. This one's the solve to the left. This one's really funny because you can just do that. I didn't notice at first. So I look at this next panel, and this 3x4 is the one that almost always uses this kind of trap to the side. The only other pattern that often shows up is something like this, but just going left first is usually, or going to one side first is usually going to be correct. And again, I can see that's not going to work, so I can do that. The reason trapping just the purples wasn't going to work is there was going to be no way to resolve all the oranges after including the green. So I know I have to essentially just keep taking. So next up, Purple Bridge. This is one of the things I don't really have a good toolkit for. I just kind of try and resolve the let's grab the dots without breaking the stars and hope it works out. In particular, like this one, I'm not sure what I was supposed to do. I mean, I guess forced to go this way, but okay, I guess that works too. So as you can see, these are usually pretty flexible, and you only have to solve 4, so it's not a bad place to be a little slow, but obviously you don't want to be. So again, what I do is mostly just focus on the dots without breaking the stars, and tweak. Gotta go the other way. Stones don't really, like these stones don't really add much, other than again, just try to solve and don't break. I say that and then here's one that's a little, oh. That's what I mean about the back and forth. Okay. So what happened there was I see this orange as a start, and then I see that I can't finish, so I have to go to the side. And this one's optional, but you can see that it's kind of forcing me to do the same thing. That's not always the case, but in this case it was. Ooh, this one's really weird. So now that we're mixing the stones together, you almost, like, all of these are either put the star with one stone of its color, or keep the star away from stones of its color. And there's not really much to it other than, you know, just standard solving strategies. For this kind of puzzle. Of course, this one, as soon as I say that, oh, see, I got baited. It's these two that go together. Ooh, I think I'm about to get baited again. So this one's one of the tricky ones just because it has those required pairs. You can usually rule out something that can't work. So this one's just trap the purples away from the stars. It's sparse enough that that's almost always going to be how you solve it. You can almost always just focus on the separation first on these, and it will usually just work. And then it's just laser time. Yeah. So for this one, like there's 4 stars, so just keep them away. So now we're just going to leave Treehouse and head over to our next area. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I highly recommend it. It's just very convenient. That was a really slow solve, but I still have to wait here a little bit. So if you're not getting it, you can always just run back to the bridge and solve it from the bridge. So alright, keep. Keep, like I said a while ago back at Symmetry, is a lot about just memorizing solutions. You can always come back and reference, but this is going to be around 3, yes, 5. So I go around 3 at the start. Yes, I do take this intersection, and then I go across row 5. So, fortunately, you don't have to deal with the second panel. which is easily the hardest one to get. And you can just walk around to get to the third pressure plates. Alright, I see this. There's a line. There's an N pentomino with a 2 at the top. There's not really any tricks to this, so let's just walk it. So walk around the single. Like whatever, like you can also take screenshots here, but really whatever memorization or method of doing these works for you works. Try to get a quick peek. Alright, this one is, okay, it's a sum of 10, which means that I need to put 3 on the outside. Now, I'm going to go back and tell you how I got to that. This is a P. You can put these together to make it P. I need to start by going this way, P and counter P. Because this in the middle means that the middle must be used so it removes any weird shenanigans like, including this group or something. So if you don't want to deal with jungle wall skip, you can also solve this panel here, or jungle log. I'm going to be doing jungle wall skip later on, because it's not too difficult to pick up, but you don't have to. Anyway, keep laser panel. You can always solve this by putting in the same by putting in forced solutions from earlier. In this case, I think I'm pretty lucky with the arrangement. Okay, where's the other pink star? Ooh, yeah, this one was a pretty lucky keep laser panel. All the shapes were very free, and when the shapes are clustered up here, it's generally just approach it like you'd approach Swamp Red, Red 3 and 4, I think, which I'll explain how I approach those when we get to Swamp. Anyway, let's get out of keep. That was such a free laser panel. So I didn't really get to talk about just scanning the center for what parts need to be separated, what parts need to be together, making sure that the cyan and magenta stones are accounted for. That one kind of just solves itself. Often if you end up with the shapes in the bottom right, it's very easy. If you end up with them in the middle left area, then it's very messy. Also, this isn't where I walk, is it? No, it is. It is. So, town's not too bad, generally. It's one of the harder areas to be reliable at, but it's also a pretty doable one. Those are both fixed panels. I'm not going to go too much into what I do with these symmetry ones, just because it's the separation stuff. Just find ways to keep things apart, keep an eye on the other side. And the reason I'm not going too into this is because I went into this in some detail in the guide that I have written up. So red hexagonal panel is a fixed solution that I'm just not able to input correctly for some reason. Game really doesn't like diagonals. And then this discard, which is the first instance of triangles. And I'll get more into how I approach triangles when it really matters, like a challenge bottom. But generally, if you've done Slitherlink, you know how to deal with triangles and just intuitively putting them together. So this is a star panel, and this is the solution. But this is the solution because it's as viewed through this door, as you may know. I know, shocking. Which you don't need to open the door, but I'm going to reveal what it looks like. So as you can see, the red and the magenta look the same, the cyan and the green look the same, and the black and the blue look the same. Also, yellow and white will look the same. If you can remember that, or do the math as you go, the color math as you go, then it's not too bad. It's really not. It's just a 4x4 full stars panel. Now I'm going to breeze through these because, again, I've talked a lot about, I wrote up a lot about how to really handle these. And as soon as I say that, I run into one that kind of eludes my usual methods. Okay, so you can see kind of some commonalities in the structure here. So this one, this one had to be at the bottom. This one, I see this shape and I recognize this kind of Y shape, and also that I can't just make this kind of separation. This one was a little harder, but I took it as like a tweak of the T and L, and then this one, oh, simple as that. Now we go up to the negation one where, ooh, can I even make the Y shape? I don't think I can make the Y shape. Wow, this one's almost always free, but it's not here. Oh wait, no, I can make the Y shape. So sometimes you put one shape on its own, sometimes you put everything together. Um, there is no one, like, always working method for that one, but it's a lot simpler than the ones below it, so it should be a doable time every time. Alright, now I'm going to go do the desert redirect. And come down here for Town Crate. Town Crate is going to activate one of the lasers, and this is a trickier panel. So it's three shapes. Sometimes they all go together avoiding the stones, sometimes they don't. Sometimes you have to like wedge things next to each other. In this case, there's two small shapes, so it's pretty easy, or relatively easy. You just kind of slot the U in. Oh, I say it's pretty easy, and then I just add the shapes wrong. And then this is one of the easiest triangle puzzles always. There's always only four triangles on it, or I should say cells with symbols on them, and it's so many breaks that you can kind of just fumble through it. Again, triangle logic is the same as Slitherlink, so there's not really much point in just going over all the details. Okay. So, I was too busy talking, I just realized that this is not the first time I've made this mistake, by the way. As I was coming out of Keep, I don't walk over to Town that way. It's over to Quarry Laser and then Town, and you start with 25 dots. Okay, that's why things felt weird. So, my mistake. I distracted. Great sentence. Great sentence. It's very hard to talk and think at the same time. So this is a fixed solution panel, and it didn't move left and snap in. So if you hear that little laser box activation sound, you know you put it in right. Anyway, let's walk back over to Jungle and do Jungle. Which Jungle is one of two things. Jungle is either one of the easiest lasers to activate or one of the most annoying lasers to activate. There isn't really an in-between, I think, anyway. And the reason for that is pretty simple, honestly. You have to memorize, you either have to get the sounds or memorize the sounds. There's two possibilities. So first I'm going to start by doing Jungle Wall Skip. There's a nice tutorial on the speedrun.com page for the witness. So I'm just going to do a quick lineup. So these first two, static panels, they will always do this. This one is always medium, medium, small, medium, large. This one is always small, medium, small, large. Or if there's 5 panels, it's large, medium, medium, small, large. This one, again, starts with 2 of the same, and then ends with medium, large. And then this last one always has a small, large, small, and then a large, medium. Okay, so those are the lists, but how do I do these? Same as with just picking up the normal dots. Be greedy, except it's even more constrained. If you can get good at regular dot puzzles, those should be a cakewalk. Anyway, that's Jungle. And with Jungle out of the way, there's just one laser left to activate. I know, shocking. We're 40 minutes in, and there's 10 lasers done. Assuming I haven't forgotten anything while I'm talking. Now, the other thing you're thinking is, wait, what about shadows and bunker? That's what the discards are for. Alright, so more important than anything else on these first tutorial set in Swamp is that the generator always puts the shapes separate. Or tries to force you to keep the shapes separate. It doesn't always, but you can always draw them separate. Then here, you just draw them together. So this is just some standard shape addition, which if you can visualize this quickly, then as you can see, these are all just easy snacks. This one's a little more involved. So the really important thing is for these last four, because these are where they tend to get a little harder. The really important thing is just what can take both shapes if possible, like this one. We take both with either, and that's just a matter of. But if we take with the Tromino, we have to take. It fails due to this gap, so we take it with the Y pentomino. With this one, I see that if I try and put the O here, it's not going to work, which immediately guides the rest of the solution. You get a feel for how to trace these shapes after a while. And then this one, I just assumed that the big shape was going to be in the corner and just went, okay, can I put the S here? That looks good. Okay, the breaks don't work. Here, here, and then there. Anyway, let's go across to red. Red is where my shape addition methods are really important. So we're just gonna try and go into a little more detail there. Sorry. U takes these. L takes that. Domino in the corner. These big shapes really don't want to play nice together. These two are kind of going to have to be next to each other. This is probably going to tuck in. That would leave here out and top corner out, but that's not actually going to work. Actually, wait a second. Oh, this one's devious. It does work, but this is what I meant back at Town Crate, where sometimes the generator will force you to do something like this, where you split the shapes in the same area. But anyway, logically, I do mean logically here. If I put if I try to slot the P in anywhere on this top row of the 6 locations it can be, there's no room for the L. So it has to be on the bottom. We have to leave room for the L and the U. And that kind of went to where I originally thought of leaving here and here out. So these two slot together to make a nice corner. These two slot together incredibly well, so I'm going to try and use that. And that's generally what I do. I try and put shapes together, like mentally block them into larger shapes, and then put other, like build the rest of the given shapes on top of that. So the same kind of principle applies to disjoint. Wow, I failed. So here I think of this as just the left side and the right side. So here I went wrong a little bit by trying to put the I here. These obviously create a 2x3 block, and then it's just a matter of doing the rest. So now we get to rotation, which I really hope I'm remembering the right direction on this bridge. I am, cool. Which rotation is just, it's exactly the same as what we've been doing, just more options to go through. Not really anything too hard about single or double shapes usually. I say usually. You might think this is me getting karma'd, but no. Okay, well I guess this gives me an opportunity to show how I would reason about things. So I see that I have to start by going to the right. and I have to end up here somewhere. That, to me, is a big indicator that if I try to go up and trap the shapes on the side, then I'm not going to have enough room to go around them. So I strongly suspect I'm going to have to do this. I can see that I can slot the shapes together to make this. Ah, and I was correct in my assumption that I have to go around to the right. So this is something I find a little hard to see, just that both, one of the first things I tried in my head was this for the W, and then this for the domino, but it didn't quite work. And then this last rotation puzzle, you can usually keep them separate. If you can't, there's just more room. It's usually the easier of the pair. Next up, just more rotation, except now we have to mentally slot the shapes together. I make it 2 by 5, and the rest just falls into place. Now, I cannot easily use the same system I used earlier, just because this gets in the way. And you might be thinking maybe I can put the Z like that. No. However, I can put the Z sideways, and the way I get to that is just trying, seeing this doesn't work, so maybe I put the domino here. That doesn't work, but this looks nice. And then just putting it the rest in. And then big shapes, which I'm still getting used to big shapes, honestly. Oh, wait. Sorry, this tail's longer by 1. Sorry, this tail's shorter by 1. So essentially what I did is just take this, put it in, slot the U, put that in place. Okay, next up, subtraction. I know, there's a lot to cover in Swamp. So the really, really critical thing about subtraction is you cannot ever have shapes go off the grid, and I think it's generally easier to try to find ways to combine the shapes normally using the same techniques as earlier, and then just, to solve. So here, you combine the shapes, you get the ring, you remove one, and it works. Same applies to this third and fourth one, and even this fifth one. Just slotting this in and then killing one in the corner. This is an exception, where you might want to just cancel these together, but then there's no way to put the P in. And so I remove these two from the edge, slam it in the corner, put that there, solved. Almost done with Swamp, I promise. So now we go to teal underwater. Which teal is much the same, except it's a little bit more involved. And here, I'm actually getting slightly baited. Okay, so this is a case where the method I just outlined works. So if you remember, the middle two do not exist, then you can remove this group of 3 on the left and arrive at a solve. So how do I get to that? Honestly, there is some strong degree of just familiarity. Wait, what? Okay, I'm not actually sure why that one's wrong. And in fact, you could also arrive at this one by just removing these top bits. I was initially trying to remove bits from this. Anyway, the first thing I would try to do here is, cut this out, make it a domino, and I can actually just do that. If I could draw. We got a hard one here. Okay. Trying to reason about this. Trying. The fact that this is a triple is actually kind of annoying. I apologize for this kind of stalling here. Oh, I understand what I should be looking at now. So this kind of comes from looking at all of the shapes together. And I come to the conclusion that if I can take the two pentominoes together to take most of the given symbols, then that's probably going to be good. And this is before any negations. Now, this probably isn't right now that I'm looking at it. Okay, so maybe I can do something a little different. Maybe I can put them together stacked. Yes, I can. So this is a messy solution where I stack the two pentominoes here, use this to kill that, use this to kill here, and then these two, and then stick that at the bottom. Whew. This one's much easier in comparison. Just remove the bottom of the tail, or of the disjoint shape. Yeah, sometimes Swamp can throw some really fun stuff. So I'm just going to breeze through these ones because it's almost always about eliminating full shapes. Why did I open my mouth? Oh, this one's still about eliminating full shapes. You just have to eliminate a partial as well. And then this one will also require partial eliminations. Cool. So assuming I haven't forgotten anything, after the fixed solution island puzzle, which I'm just going to take a moment. This is such a cool puzzle. I'm really glad it exists. We grab Swamp Laser, and have to leave through Swamp shortcut doors. Which these are both just very similar to some of the earlier stuff. Just put the shapes together or keep them separate, and then just slot the shapes into where there's nothing. If you can get through the rest of Swamp, that section's going to be like very easy, even considering that I got very easy puzzles here. Alright. Do not forget 11 laser box. That's kind of important. So, Mountaintop. I don't honestly, the most important thing is this lineup here, which is essentially the vanilla lineup. This one will almost always get you this part of the seal opened up, and if you're lucky, it can get you this one as well. In this case, it kind of reveals to me that I want to be able to come through like this, and then for the last one, I want to be able to trap one of the stones, and this is kind of a sneaky angle, but it does exist through the legs. You don't always have to go through the legs. I'm not even sure if normal ever forces it, but if it's possible, it is often the easiest solution to see for that particular seal. Okay, purple path, what's it going to be? This is similar to Quarry, except there's extra constraints. In my text guide, I go over that a little bit, but in this case, I'm just going to try and put in something I like. Okay, I actually like this one. Yep. Now, the one thing I do not like about this this purple path, I like that it. Actually, I'm going to redraw it slightly. This is to give me a better look at a couple parts. So what I like is it gives me a good look at purple, both purples. Lets me go to blue. It gives me a really good view on all of orange. What I don't like is what it gives me for green, which I really want to see if I can get a solution here that's better for green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve these 3 sets, and then I'm going to come back here and try and come up with a set that gives me a better view for green. So let's start with orange. So orange is kind of the basics of stones and stars, except really not friendly sometimes. I don't really have much advice for dealing with stones and stars other than if you can keep them separate, you should, but if you can't, don't worry about it. Hidden shapes. Ooh, devious. I have to go this way first. This is just kind of parse what it is and solve it. Again, parse what it is and solve it. Oh, I'm an idiot. Am I an idiot? I might be an idiot. Okay, this one was a little harder than most. The breaks were actually in meaningful locations. So this one, I generally try to treat mostly as a separation puzzle. This one, I try and find an entire solution before I draw it. This one, I try to do much the same. So these are all kind of just, the difficulty kind of progresses in reverse. So let's go purple. Usually, in fact, in this case as well, you want to put the shapes together. And we'll solve this one. And again, put the shapes together. And in this case, I need to include one of these stones, and it's going to be the black stone. Alright. Like I said, we'll do green later. In an actual run, I'd probably do it immediately, just to be safe. This is another town puzzle. I always look to the side here to see if I need to do any separations. I do not on this run. Wait a sec. Are the other stars? Okay. Kind of a tricky one that I have to put the stars with the white. And then just kind of a be greedy approach. You can look to the side from both of these angles to see dots if your first solution fails, but there's not very many possible solutions, so I recommend just putting one in and hoping it's correct. Okay. Now to get a look at green, which I apologize in advance for green, especially if it doesn't show up really visibly on the recording. Alright, I think this is a good path for doing green. Yeah. So green is about obfuscation even more heavily than other sections here. If you can make out where the dots are, which sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. As you can see, I totally missed one there. If you can remember then where they are, it helps. This is a shape, I'm pretty sure it's an eye from where it's centered. I don't see any dots on the bottom. This is the one I really don't like. What did I miss? I missed a dot there. Okay. So I remember that. I include that. I'm still missing a dot. And I have no idea where it is. I do not like this panel. Yeah, that's not even a useful thing to do. Ah, it's right here. I think I saw it. So there's one here? So that... What? That means those two segments are forced. Green 4. Finally got green 4. Okay. And then green 5, if I squint, I can kind of make out where the dots are. You can also just do this and treat it like an invisible dots puzzle. I'm going to try and treat it like an invisible dots puzzle. And I'm going to fail. Yeah, whoops. So let's tweak. Cool. So the way I treat it like an invisible dots puzzle is just make the dots flash so I can see where they are better, and then just try and solve based on just what I can see in that flashing time. You can also, as I said, especially on even lower FOV than this, make it out. So, rainbow, if you can decipher it, more power to you. I think that's wrong. Yep. So in this case, these are pink, these are green. Therefore I need a green match. Trap this green, put those together. Okay, let's go cyan with yellow, trap those yellows, trap that one. The shapes here can be a pretty big driver of how it's going to work. Though we have a minor problem, actually. I think I need to do this? No. Okay, so that's pink. That's blue. That's also blue. Which means that groups together, but because that's blue, that's a problem. So I need to do this, 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 and this. And again, this is just kind of grouping stars together. I just pick a side, you drag over a line. If it matches, then cool, it's the right dot. And once you have 4 dots of a color, then you know which ones go where. So let's go double bridges. So double bridge. Unfortunately, I can't show you the fast route here. Just not possible on this seed. But what I can do... no, I can't even do anything cool. So fast route involves going to the right and then straight out with orange bridge. This is the more usual solution where you go here first, then I'll be trapping that. So that I can then just duck under and be done. Double bridges on normal is pretty easy. So multi-panel is kind of, come on. You just kind of put in solutions that work. So in this case, I'm actually going to completely adapt my approach. And now, I like this top still, and now I just have to fit these shapes in. And I see that I can actually do that, kind of. Now dealing with the dots with those shapes is actually going to be quite a pain. Okay, so I did a little bit of trialing, just putting stuff in, seeing what sticks, eventually hitting on, putting the F in the corner and then the T here. I don't have a real way of articulating why I got to that. Oh, nice. This is actually just going to work until the end. But this fourth one is where the restrictions come in. And I think the reason why I got to that is, given where these stones are and these stars are, these probably aren't going to take any of the stars. So I need to deal with the dots. This is kind of an invisible line of sorts. It's very hard to get through. And I need to pack everything in under this upper line, and that was pretty much the only way to do that. I think this is a faster one to walk. Alright, now for the part that I know some people are really looking forward to seeing, how I tackle floor 3. And floor 3, anybody who's played this randomizer, especially in a speedrun setting, will tell you floor 3 is the make or break. Okay, well this one's obviously a forced shape. This one is obviously a forced shape. Oh, come on. You're really giving me an easy one here? So, unfortunately, I don't really need to think on this one. Don't need to kind of put things together. I just... Oh, I'm an idiot. It's this way. I just immediately see these two are forced shapes, and, you know, this one is a domino either way. And this is 7. This one makes 7 with the domino. The alternative would be to try to put everything together, and I don't think that's even possible here. So I think that was a forced separate. Alright. So, triangles. I want to satisfy the 3 immediately. I cannot. Therefore, I need to go this way. And the reason I say I could not satisfy the 3 immediately is it would always break the 1s immediately. Again, I guess I didn't really go into my thought process on that too much. It really is just Slitherlink. I mean, there's patterns with diagonal clues touching more than anything else. Like if you have if you have two threes touching, then you get an S curve through them. If they're diagonal, then the corner edges must be used. And I'll try and illustrate that somewhat on this triangle pillar, which that's a lot of 1s at the top. So I see all those 1s, and I immediately am thinking I don't like this particular example of a triangle pillar. Okay. So let's try to ignore the 3 at the top here. Because I want to try and end at that 3. In fact, yes, no. Maybe if I didn't take the 1 from the side, but I need to in order to do my desired, like, 2 across move. Oh wait, no, this is gonna... Okay, that's not a fix because I'm missing the 1 at the bottom. But this is what I mean. Like, the 1s on the line are very restricted. Ah, here's... no. So how can I get up to the top with the 3 intact? And I think the easiest way to do that is just come around the entire pillar. Okay. So going right instead of going left, it's very important to be flexible in your direction. This one is this panel is almost always an example of a split shape like this. Picking the one that has to match with the star should always, always, always be first. In this case, it can't be the O because nothing can then reach here. And then after you put this in place, just all of those need to be filled, so just tuck the shapes in. Alright. At this point, the only thing left to do to round out this all lasers is to complete the challenge. And let's be honest, Rabbit Jellyfish is a really, really good challenge tutorial, and I don't think I can add very much to it, especially not on a one-take run like this. So I'm just going to hope that I put on a good showing. around an I and then around a P. That's kind of weird. Okay, shape wasn't quite what I thought it was. Crappy pattern. No, it's this way. Okay, around an I. And the first one was around here. There it is. And then around a P, and it was around here? Yep. Oops, that was already the top of the P. No? Alright, slightly misremembered that. Ah, it's this one. Symmetry's the worst, but I got an easy one. Alright. 291. I'm not sure what that is in real time. I want to say it's like a 230 or something. Which, not great. But not bad. It might actually be a 215 or something. I don't know. If somebody cares, they'll time it from the video. I think that was reasonable, though. So yeah, that was a talk through of a seed of Sigma's Randomizer, all lasers. I hope that was helpful to people who want to improve at this randomizer or this speedrun category. And that this was, and if you don't want to do either of those things, I hope this was at least entertaining to kind of have a peek behind the curtain into my thought processes as I bang out hundreds of puzzles in no time. Because as you can see, 306 solved. And it really is just a, like, I love speedrunning this randomizer. It's such a test of just being able to think quickly. It's everything I wanted the challenge aisle to be like 4 years ago when I was doing that. It's everything I wanted that to be. Just a test of solving skill above luck. Luck matters, like what puzzles you get matters, but just how you handle the puzzles you get like, matters so much more. So again, because I kind of missed going over it because I needed to leave here, ones tend to fall more towards intuition than logic, twos towards sort of packing, and threes towards logic on these. So this two, you can only take one of these starting two, so you'd have to take one of these other two. Now I noticed that if I go up and then do this, which was the first thing I naturally wanted to try, then later, in order to get this one, I would break the one next to it. So then if it goes up, again, we break going this way, so I have to go left first. And then if I go up, well, that's a problem. So this was actually all forced. And then, a little bit of intuition later, we have a solution.